Hi there, my name is Renee Hobbs, and I'm so delighted to that you're joining us for the June 4th episode of LSC531, Information Competencies for Youth at the Graduate School of Library and Information Studies at the Harrington School of Communication and Media at the University of Rhode Island. So I am very delighted that Lisa, Lindsay, Laura, Hyman, and Allison are joining us live. And of course, I'm joining you from right here in downtown Chicago. And I'll tell you all about my exciting adventures in Chicago. But first, let's just do a little catch up around where you're at with your life, week, and June, your early June. So maybe you'll share some highlights or a highlight of your last 4 days. Since you entered the month of June, what is one highlight you'd like to share? Who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. This is Lisa. Well, Twitter is really changed my life. I'm finding all these people that I know and catching up, and it's just opened up a whole new world for me. I love it. I check it 4 or 5 times a day, and it if anybody updates my likes my tweet or forwards my tweet or responds to something or posts something to our class, it just comes to my cell phone. I mean, it's all connected to all my devices, and it's just phenomenal. I love it.
I'm giving my happy thumbs up on that. Glad to hear that you're loving it. It gets addictive after a while, so we'll talk about your Twitter addiction next week. Who else would like to share something wonderful that's happened to you in the last 4 days? We're just talking about good news in June. What's going on in your life? Lindsay, do you have something wonderful to share?
Sure. My seniors had their last day of class the other day.
Something to our class, it just comes to my cell phone. I mean, it's all connected to all my devices.
And what's going on here? So we have some sound challenge.
Happy thumbs up on that.
So now you're
loving it. It gets addictive after a while.
You know what? Hold on.
Who else would like to share something wonderful that happened to you in the last 4 days? We're just talking about good news. What's going on in your life? Lindsay, do you have something wonderful to share?
Sure. My seniors had their last day of class.
Here's what I think is going on. Is that somebody has live broadcast playing in the background. Put your mute microphone on. We'll try to diagnose. Aha. Okay. Now, Lindsay, back to you. You say you're sad. Tell us why was that so great for you?
It was great because, well, they're excited to be done and to be moving on to other things, but it was also sort of an emotional day, and they were class project, so a lot of them were expressing their gratitude for the project and just how happy they were and how accomplished they felt. So it was actually a really sad and happy day at the same time. So good.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a very bittersweet, isn't it? The end of the semester, because you're happy for them, but there's a little sadness. I think it's a very reasonable, that bittersweet sensibility. Jenny, share with us a little bit about a highlight of the last 4 days. We're talking about good things happening in June.
It's just the craziness of the kids in school. I have 3, 2 in the middle school and 1 in elementary, so they're all doing their end of year stuff. So we have plays going on and award ceremonies and all that. And my daughter just got a 2014 Scholar Leader Award for the middle school, so that was pretty exciting. good for the week.
Kids get recognized like that, and it kind of helps you manage the craziness of the end of the year when, at least they're getting some recognition. Hi, Min, do you have a highlight for the last few days of June that you'd like to share?
Not very special, but I went to a 400 people barbecue on Sunday.
Whoa! How do you feed 400 people? What kind of food was that?
It's in a park because Sunday was June 1st. It's supposedly International Children's Day. So the Boston Young Chinese Professional Association, whatever it is, organized that in the park. So a friend of mine and I went there and had fun. And then the Monday was a Dragon Boat Festival in China or some other Asian countries too. So we had this traditional zongzi, we call it. It's a rice wrapped around some center, could be bean paste or meat or whatever. So we had several holidays going on.
Nice. One of the best things about Chinese culture is the wonderful festivals and the traditional foods and activities that are part of that. So it's cool you got to have that experience and right through the networking,
yes.
Which is also cool.
Yeah.
Ariel,
yes.
we're talking about highlights of June. Do you have a June highlight over the last 4 days that you'd like to share? Ariel?
Not really. And I'm on my way to the house, so I'll be logging off and then logging on.
Okay, we'll check in with you a bit later. And so, Allison, tell us a little bit about something wonderful that's happened in the last 4 days.
Like Lindsay, I'm in a high school, so mine is very sort of seasonal, school-related. Feels like whenever the calendar turns over from May to June, we stop thinking about this year entirely, and we're entirely focused on planning for next year, despite the fact that we still have kids in front of us, and like this year is theoretically still happening. So my good things have been in terms of thinking about and planning for next year. So our principal at our school is resigning and taking a post as a superintendent in another district, which is sad for us because he's been a really great supporter of libraries and a lot of wonderful things. But I was chosen to be on the committee to select his replacement. So on June 1st, we made our final decisions on who the finalists were going to be. And so the finalists were announced today. And I had a lot of anxiety going into the process because I was very worried that we weren't going to be able to replace this guy with somebody who would be as supportive and as forward-thinking as him. And thankfully, I'm really excited about the two candidates. So no matter which one the superintendent picks, I'm really pleased and I feel like I'm going to have like a good way to move forward with the school. So that's been really exciting. And the club that I advise. Oh, sorry. Yes. I also advise a poetry club. Yeah, I advise a poetry performance club, and I was interviewing for new officers. So I got to sit for an hour yesterday with a whole bunch of enthusiastic poet kids, talk about like how we can make the club better next year and all that kind of positive, optimistic energy about the school year before it actually happens and crashes in on you and you have to deal with the realities. So June is the time to think about like the things that could be.
It's a beautiful way to put it, and it's also a very great testament to your good leadership that you had the opportunity to participate in the hiring process and to be part of that. That's another kind of leadership from the middle, right? You don't always have to be at the top of the food chain to do leadership because your role stepping up to help, with the hiring is another kind of really important kind of leadership that librarians and others do. All right. Who haven't we heard from? Lisa, have we heard from you? Have you weighed in on something great about June?
I haven't.
Laura, have you weighed in?
No, I haven't. Like Jenny, I'm kind of just surviving because I have 3 kids going in 3 different directions. So last night was a concert till 9 o'clock, and one other child at a soccer tryout, so it's busy. And I can't wait for the end of school.
So you just try to hold on to your sanity, right? In any case, that's
Yep.
part of it. All right. Well, I'm having a grand time myself here in June in Chicago, and what a glorious day! The last 2 days have been really fascinating. I've been asked to be a consultant on a really interesting federally funded project that the Chicago Public Schools is working on. It's called Convergence Academies, and it's a K-12 initiative designed to bring digital and media literacy into the Chicago Public Schools through a really interesting set of collaborations. The university, it's a university school partnership, which is a model I'm really interested in. Columbia College is an art school here in Chicago, and basically they're in a deep collaboration with library media specialists in 2 schools, a K-8 school and a high school, and they're supporting the library media specialist with additional hands to sort of deepen their capacity to support teachers in integrating digital and media literacy into the curriculum. And so today, yesterday we had kind of a get acquainted meeting, and today we had a really brilliant series of conversations about designing year 2. They've just finished year 1, now they're moving into year 2, and the facilitator led us through a really smart set of exercises, really a set of conversations around designing year 2. And so there were insiders like the librarian and the curriculum specialists and the principals of the schools and the staff of this initiative. And then there were some of us outsiders. We were like, I don't know, we were advisors, I guess. We were kind of learning about the project for the first time and just kind of weighing in, asking questions, that kind of thing. And it was pretty inspiring because it looks like they struggled year 1, right? Urban schools are impossible. You can't do anything, right? It's just, Chicago's a tough place where education, you know, it's changing. And yet they made a lot of progress year 1. And what was great is to see them wrestle with their challenges and like name them and identify them, and then like kind of find a creative strategy to like do better. And it's sort of like that idea that they're in the middle of the school year and they're hopefully planning for next year. So it was a great treat. I'm literally steps away, like right out my window here is the Harold Washington Library, which is the site of the famous U Media. And I had this crazy idea that I was going to go take my my phone and I was going to make you guys a little video, but it turns out, as I already knew this because I've been there, but grown-ups can't go in to U Media, right? It's a teen-only space. So I couldn't actually, unless I made an appointment with my friend Brother Lee and did real special work. I just couldn't walk in and show it to you. But I thought maybe tomorrow, if I get a chance, I will at least do a kind of a drive-by with my cell cam. So those of you who haven't yet been to the U Media space can kind of see what Homago looks like from the the place where it was created, right? Hanging out, messing around, and geeking out was kind of born at the U Media space in Chicago Library. And what's cool is that in a way, this project that we're working on, the Convergence Academies, is like the next generation, taking those ideas that worked well in the library space and seeing, can they work in the school space? And maybe they can, maybe they can't. Well, I guess we'll know in a few more years, right? So anyway, so I'm having a blast. I have 3 things on the agenda tonight, and I hope at this point you can kind of move yourself over to take a look at our class webpage for today. If you go to info-competencies-youth, you're going to see our page, and I'm going to try to do some screen sharing right now while you are navigating yourself there. Let's see if I can do that. Let me know if you can give me a verbal when you see the screen share. Can you see that screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Woohoo! Excellent. Great. So, oh, hey, did anybody go to the RILA conference? I missed the RILA conference because I was on my way to Chicago, but I wonder if anybody went or has any news to share about the RILA conference, which was held at Salve Regina University just a couple days ago. Anybody get a chance to get there or hear anything about it? Crickets. All right. Oh well. We're not going to talk about RILA because we didn't have that experience. All right. So you can kind of go down the list. I think what we're going to do first is we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences using Twitter as a conversational space. We're going to talk a little bit about what classroom practice looks like when students are evaluating information. We're going to try to connect classroom practice to some of the stuff we read about from David Lankus. We're going to get introduced to a new tool, the Storify, and we're going to learn a little bit about digital badges and actually do some badging activities. And then I'm going to kind of introduce you to essentially your first graded assignment, right? The multimedia reflective essay, which is due next week. So it really has 3 chunks that we'll work on. I guess I'm really curious. I'm going to go right to my Twitter, and I wonder if I go to my Twitter, do you see my Twitter page? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. So the way I tend to check up on you guys is I go to my settings. I've created lists. I don't use lists too much, but I have a few lists. So you can see that I'm subscribed to LSC531, that's your class. LSC, I guess I'll make this a little bit larger, right? That might be better, easier to see. LSC530, the other class that I taught. I'm a member of a list called Newport Interactive Marketers. It has 476 members. That's Rhode Islanders who are involved in using social marketing tools like Twitter and Facebook. I'm a member of Debbie Gist's list. You see Deborah Gist has created a group called Rhode Island Educators. There's 36 people on that list. So I think I can click on that and see that list.
You can't see your screen. At least I can't.
You can't see my screen?
Nope.
How about now? Can you see my
others?
screen now?
How about everybody else?
I can see it.
Yeah,
So-
I can see it.
Me too.
Honey, what you should do is hover over her box in the bottom right-hand corner and click on it, and I think that might fix your problem.
I have
Yeah,
the professor's picture right in the middle and has a ring, kind of a flashing. That's all. What I have.
Just click on it.
All right, now I see
Yep.
it.
Okay.
Good to know. Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes that happens. It's really good to know that when that happens, it's usually Google's situation. Google uses a lot of techniques to make sure that it privileges voice. It always protects the voice communication, and sometimes if there are bandwidth slowdowns, it'll do that for a little bit and then it'll come back. So what's really interesting is now I'm taking a look at Debbie Gist's list. I'm over here. I see that she's put 36 people on this list. These are probably people who are influencing her thinking about education. I'm not following very many of these people at all. These are teachers like Pat Page, the 2014 Rhode Island Teacher of the Year at East Greenwich High School. Here's a Providence teacher named Alex Lucini, Alan Tenreo, who's a principal at Cumberland High School, and some other folks. Sean Rubin, he's the one of the directors of the Highlander Institute. So Don Miller, he's a really great guy. He's a principal at Shea High School in Pawtucket, I think. So ways I figure out who to pay attention to on Twitter is trawling other people's lists. And I don't know, has anybody had the experience of your tweets for LSC531 being retweeted or shared beyond our class? Has anybody had that experience so far?
Not yet.
No. But I've had some interesting people follow me. I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, I got retweeted the other day by
Really?
somebody I'd never heard of. It was bizarre. I felt like a celebrity.
Fascinating. So I want to have a little conversation about what key ideas from Lanx you found in the Twitter stream. Because we were summarizing Lanx, we were commenting on Lanx, we were evaluating him. Why don't you take a few minutes and scroll down to take a look at the LSC? You can just search on our hashtag and pull out one tweet that you think is, I don't know, interesting, problematic.
I
worth
have a question.
Talking more. Yeah.
I think I tweeted like 3, 4, 5 of them. I can't find them on this LSC531 list of tweets. I can find it on my own tweets, but if I type in LSC,
you're looking at top and not all.
Yeah, I clicked it. I clicked all. I can't find it. I did it on Saturday, May 31st or whatever it is.
I wonder, Jaime, go in and check to make sure, did you use the hashtag LSC531?
Yeah, that's what I used.
You did?
Yep.
I saw Hyman's tweet.
Hyman, I saw yours. I remember
Really?
seeing them. There they are. I see them.
Is there something
I use this really. Oh, go ahead, Hyman. Ask.
Okay. See, I can see it in my own on my own homepage, but if I search for the hashtag LSC533, press all, and then I go up and down, I don't see myself.
I see them.
Interesting.
I see them.
Got it. It's so fascinating.
See their own tweets?
I don't think so.
See, I clicked all, and then it's up and down quite a few scrolls, and I don't see myself at all.
Hyman, I heard you say LSC 533. Are you making sure?
No, 531, 531.
Okay. Did you have to put the hashtag and then LSC 531?
Yes, I did. The problem is, earlier a couple of classmates said they saw my tweets, but then I can't see them myself. I wonder why.
Can you hear me? It's because I had the same problem. You have to go into your privacy settings. I was every tweet that I made was private, and so I had to uncheck that box to make it public. And then I noticed that on my name, instead of a little lock at the end of my name, the lock was gone. I don't know if you have a lock at the end of your name when you go into my profile. But that might.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't.
If
Never.
you go to your profile and there's a lock by your name, then that means you're limiting access in a way that doesn't make it visible, your tweets and your activity. So
Thank you for
you have to go.
Thank you. Thank you for diagnosing that issue. Right now on the screen, I've put up a really interesting tool that I invite you to play around with. It's called SEEN.co, Scene. And what Scene is one of the many tools that's available for essentially archiving tweets. So Scene allows me to capture tweets. So you can see up at the top here where it says matching scenes. As partly how I measure your class participation, to be frank with you, right, is are you tweeting? When I say to tweet, are you tweeting? So I've been essentially tracking that. On May 24th, I created a scene that allowed me to capture the very first set of tweets that people were sharing, right? And since then, I've been basically archiving the LSC tweets. I've archived from May 21st to May 27th, and I'm actually capturing right now live. And what's neat is it allows me to show that our tweets have reached 3,000, almost 4,000 eyes, right? And that's kind of powerful if you think about it, right? 4,000 potential views from this really interesting collection. If you had to identify the most useful tweets, I'd love you to share a little bit about what you found from the comments that you read from your peers. What's a good tweet? We're trying to figure that out, right? We kind of want to know what's a bad tweet, but let's do it by finding out what do we like. So would you like to share something that you liked that was going on in the Twitter stream in the last week?
I have a comment.
Who'd like to go first?
I have a comment. All right. Well, this is going back to the Alaska to the video you asked us to see, and I was surprised considering that we're supposed to see him. That there were only very few people have seen this video, but yet we're talking about what he presented at some university conference. And there's a group on LinkedIn with thousands of librarians, yet that has not been shared there. Neither has it been shared by anybody else. So I'm wondering, what is the influence of this person aside from you telling us that he's very influential?
I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand the point you're making.
I'm trying to make. You're asking us what did you find that which tweet that we shared most important, but I'm starting from the point of saying I watched a video of a person presenting at a conference, and I heard what he had to say, but yet when I looked at how many people actually looked at what he said, he's not reaching a lot of people. You just mentioned that we have a potential reaching 3,000 people. The only counter was about 200 and something people have seen what he said.
Right. So you understand that David Blanks is using many different channels of communication to reach his own students at Syracuse University and librarians, school, public, and academic librarians around the country, right? You understand that, right? That he's using many different channels. So yes. YouTube is probably his least effective channel, I would say. And you're right to point out, not very many people have seen it. So I would say it's definitely his least effective channel.
Ariel, if you look at him on Twitter, he has a whole lot of followers, if that helps. It's like 4,000 plus.
Right. I'm just was wondering, it's like this person's supposed to be influential, yet it's like there are 20-something of us and we're all watching. That's a lot of people viewing it, and I'm wondering why he wouldn't put his presentation to a larger crowd, or even people who are following his Twitter. He would tweet that to his Twitter, but yet no one's watching this video, or not a lot of people. That's all I'm trying to say.
But so fast. Sure. No, that's a fair thing to observe, and one of the reasons why I showed you Google Citations tool was to reflect on the fact that scholars and librarians, researchers and teachers all make choices about how visible they want to be online. Now, you're taking a class from somebody who is pretty visible online. I think there are way more benefits to be gained from being visible online when you're in the business of helping people identify and meet their information needs, right? If you're really in that business, then being visible online is probably a good thing, not just for you, but for the patrons and the people you're trying to reach. But every librarian and every teacher and every researcher has to make a decision for themselves about it. So we would never want to be too evaluative about people who chose, for instance, not to use YouTube to share their presentations, or people who chose not to use Twitter. We wouldn't want to be judgmental.
And I agree. The tool you showed us last class was very good. The one that was from Google Scholar in regards to the ranking of how many people cited his works, and that was very good. But in his article, he talked about credibility, and I wanted to bring that issue just because of a comment that I also shared on Twitter in regards to that, and because of something that I see every week in the school when people say, people in the high school say, well, you can't trust blogs or things like that. However, Huffington is accessed on a regular basis and has hundreds of thousands of followers for journalists there.
Yeah, and of course, David Lanks does give quite a very robust criticism to those superficial checklist type criteria, right? That some librarians have some sort of quick and dirty checklist guides for assessing credibility. I think one of the reasons why I love that article so much is that he really deepens the problem of credibility and contextualizes it in a very rich way. So we now understand that it's not a matter of 1, 2, or even 3 lessons on credibility. It's a process, and it's a process that really takes a lifetime. Other thoughts on tweets? We're trying to basically define what's a good tweet, and since you're going to be tweeting this whole class, I hope your tweets are going to get better. So when you look at the tweets that came out of the last week, what do you think makes a good tweet? What tweets did you enjoy from this class so far?
Well, I'm looking at one from Becca, and she has a popularity equals credibility, and she speaks to the the problem with overcoming with students, that if it's something popular, they may equate it with credibility, and to try to overcome that with students is difficult, because they go to that first because they want to get their assignment done. And I thought that was an interesting observation.
Yep, and what made that a good tweet was that she took David Lankus' idea and she synthesized it into a very tight equation. She simplified, she radically simplified his idea, but in a way that made you think, right, and reflect. Nice choice. I love that tweet too. Anybody else want to pull out a good tweet and then reflect a little bit on what made it a good tweet?
I liked Jane. I'm not even sure if it was this week or last week. Jane, I don't know if she's here, shared that cultural literacy article. And I thought she did a really nice job of contextualizing it and giving me in a sentence and a half why I might want to read it through summary, and then giving me the link so I had the ability to follow up on that interest.
Allison, I totally agree with you. I think that is some of the best kind of tweeting. A summary that has a why you should read dimension and a hyperlink to click it to decide for yourself if it's worth reading. So I agree. That's another characteristic of a good tweet. Let's do one more. What was a good tweet that happened this last week, and what made it good? Okay, I'm using wait time, but wait time's not working, ladies. Come on now, gentlemen. What's a good tweet?
There was another good tweet from Catherine that was similar to Jane's, in that she linked a CNN link about talking about hanging out, messing around and geeking out, and I thought it was very pertinent to what we were talking about, and it was, and I really liked the link too, so I thought that was a good tweet.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. Of course, I am thrilled that Catherine is posting her little YouTube reflections. I hope you get a chance to look at that. She has literally commented on the last class, and you can access her little YouTube video via her the Twitter stream, and I think that is pretty. I think that's pretty terrific as well. All right, so let's go back now. We're moving our way through the the synchronous activities for tonight. What I'd like you to do next, we're looking at the second item. I think we're not going to practice synthesizing and reflecting on key ideas from Lank's reading here. I think we'll let that happen. We'll let that happen with the able to participate in the class. I do want to call your attention to the fact, let me see if I can figure out how to do this, though. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this. I did, are you guys seeing my screen now? Mm-hmm. I hope? Okay, good show. I did want to share with you a little bit about the very good work that I thought you did in responding to the readings of Lisa Tripp, Catherine Zicker, and my own work. I had a really great time reading your comments, and what I did is I highlighted in bold, I bolded the phrases and ideas that I thought were most useful. And sometimes I put in comments, right? So I put in some comments and responded to people sometimes a little bit specifically. But I didn't know if you ever got a chance to check out the time slider. Did anybody explore TitanPad to discover about the time slider function?
I used it to.
Has anybody tried that? Say again?
I mistakenly deleted somebody's thing when trying to put mine own in, and I freaked out that I had deleted somebody's work. So that's when I discovered the time slider, by seeing if I could go back in time to that error, and I could. So that was exciting.
That's how I learned the time slider too. What's absolutely cool is that this little time slider allows me to see how the piece was built. Right? There's Allison, and I can literally watch Allison's writing process and see when the goofy thing happened. I can see when she undid it. I can see actually a lot about her writing process. And I think it's really cool to help people, especially young learners, and especially maybe for kids for whom writing is not their favorite activity, to kind of think about how writing is a lot like talking, and how to think out loud. And I think this tool is really powerful for illustrating some aspects of the writing process. And I love the fact that nothing is ever lost, nothing is ever go away. You cannot mess it up because literally every keystroke is saved and savable. And I think that that's a really powerful collaborative writing tool. Perhaps maybe something that you might want to continue to experiment with. But I do invite you to take a look at some of the synthesis that I was aiming to do in highlighting what I thought were the big ideas that came out of that, I thought, very thoughtful and very thought-provoking commentary. Now what we're going to do is we're going to watch this video. This beautiful picture of this young middle school student is a clickable image. When you click on it, it's going to take you to a video called Using Critical Thinking to Find Trustworthy Websites. Like we usually do, we're not going to watch this. We're going to watch this offline. And it's a 5-minute and 51-second video. And when we're done watching it, we're going to try to reflect on what we notice about student and teacher behavior. Now, before we begin, do you have any questions about this activity? We're going to watch this video, and then we're going to reflect on what we're noticing about student and teacher behavior. Do you have any questions?
No.
I do. Where
Okay.
do you,
Renee,
where
So
are you getting the video?
I click on
the
the
web
image of the young black girl, and it takes me to this website called Teaching Channel. Do you see it in my home screen? If you click there, you'll see we're going to the Teaching Channel, and we're watching this video called Using Critical Thinking to Find Trustworthy Websites. If you click yourself to that page, put your thumb in the air in front of the camera if you got to that page. Yep. Okay, cool. So let's watch this video for 5 minutes and 51 seconds, and then we'll have a little conversation about it. All right. If you want to, you can mute yourself while you watch. That'd make it a little bit easier for us. So we'll see you in about 5 minutes.
Oh. Let's see.
And I teach.
Renee, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm getting a ton of buffering. I can't watch it.
Great.
Anybody else experiencing
I teach
buffering
at
problems?
Westside Collaborative in New York City, and I.
Mine works.
Okay, you can unmute your microphones when you're done watching.
Done.
Okay. Of course, here I am in my hotel room, and I had terrible trouble with the buffering, so I couldn't watch the video, but I'd seen it before, so I'm okay with that. Why don't we talk a little bit about that first question that's in the questions to consider? How does using...
Buffering.
Say again?
That's not buffering. That's what I had. All I need to do is press the play button. It played. You know the
very nice. I'm so glad that...
I had this round.
I'm so glad...
Arrow, it played.
Very nice. I'm so glad it worked. So how does a controversial subject motivate students? What did you notice about student motivation? How does a controversial subject motivate students?
Are we not doing this on TitanPad?
Oh, are we going to do it on TitanPad? Yeah, why not, Ariel? I love it. Let's do it. I forgot. That's exactly right. I'm getting tired. Yeah, so off we go to the TitanPad for our discussion. Thank you for reminding me. I'll ask you to take about another minute or so. Should be wrapping up your feedback at this point. But as I'm reading as I'm reading your comments on the Titan Pad, I'm absolutely intrigued at the very important identification of pedagogical instructional practices that you appreciate, admire, or value. So why don't we just go around the room and identify what instructional practices did we appreciate or value? There were quite a few of them, and you wrote about a lot of them. Why don't we name them in our face-to-face setting right now? Who'd like to go first?
Concise lesson plan.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean that she had a very organized way of explaining and teaching them about critically evaluating a website or a topic on the web. It was very well done, and that she had it on a timer so they were restricted as to how long they could spend on it, and she kept engaging them as they were doing the exercise. So I thought it was very concise.
I really value, Lisa, I really value that you're observing the concision to be valuable, and especially your observation about the timer creating a deepening of engagement. So thank you for sharing that great insight. What else? So concision sort of matters because it creates a momentum, right? And this activity seemed to have a lot of momentum because of the use of time was very strategic and intentional. Who's got another element of what you admired or appreciated about this lesson and the way you saw it roll out in this video? What did you like about it? Or what instruction strategies
the students and teachers just talk to each other, participate in student-centered learning kind of a thing. It's very, very casual but fun. Students are engaged.
Yeah. Beautiful. And thank you for sharing. The conversational style suggests a lot of respect and trust in the classroom, right? We feel that respect, a mutual respect and trust is evident in the conversational style. Thanks for sharing. Who's got another element that you appreciated in this lesson?
I thought she got a lot of the boys interested. I just noticed that one of the boys, he didn't seem interested, but he repeated something someone said, but which was okay because he was engaging in the whole process.
I really appreciate your observation about her strategic attempt to reach everyone in the room.
Yes.
And that's a very good thing that you observed. Thank you for noticing it. What else did you observe?
I think that's...
Go ahead.
I think just going on what Hyman and Laura said was the fact that she was an excellent teacher of taking what they said and whether it was the correct answer or not, weaving it back into the key concepts that she was talking about. So she made every student feel like whatever they answered, whether or not it was the correct answer or kind of slightly off, she wove it back to what was appropriate. And she very much kept taking it back over and over repetitively of the content. And I thought that was great because every kid in that class, I think, felt good about their participation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And they didn't have to be 150 or perfectly right. They didn't even have to be halfway right. They could get direction, and she scaffolded them to feel like, yes, that was a contribution, right? Even if it was only a little bit of a contribution. Thanks for noticing that, Jenny. One other instructional strategy or practice that you especially liked or admired?
I like the fact that she had different sites set up for the kids. She knew certain URLs that were already set up for certain students. She had conversations.
And why is that a good? Yeah, and why is that a good thing, Ariel? Why was that a good thing?
Well, first of all, it shows that she knows her students, knows where they go, what they like to do. The other fact is if you have everyone going to the same place, some kids may not be paying attention, but the fact that if students are checking out different sites, they might be interested to look at what the other person has. their experience with the other. So it goes back to the issue of a flipped classroom then rather than the teacher students are teaching.
Excellent, excellent observation, Ariel. She really created a condition where the students were invited, encouraged to listen to each other, right, and to learn from each other. And that, I think, was a powerful tool that increased motivation because those kids wanted to learn from each other. Now, it's likely that watching this little video also raised questions for you or made you wonder. So why don't we do a round of questions or wondering? So you can ask a question that maybe would be worth thinking more about because this video is so selective and incomplete, right? It doesn't show everything. So I wonder what questions you have, or you may state it as an I wonder statement. This video made you wonder. So what questions did this video raise for you, or what do you wonder about after watching it?
I wrote that I was wondering why, if we're trying to teach 21st century with the fact that, and I know one of my classmates commented on it, but I'm wondering why the students were not actually doing the work on their computers, or the smart board was not the main place where information was written down.
Thank you for wondering that. That's a great thing to
I'm sorry,
observe.
one last comment, or why use such as an encyclopedia or any book to say, why do we trust as a nonfiction book?
Great. Thank you for sharing. Who else wants to ask a question in responding to this video or make an I wonder statement?
I wonder how she'll measure the outcome of the lesson in the end. So I thought it was a really great lesson, but I'm curious as to how she'll measure whether the students apply this to future research. I wonder if she'll have them use that kind of a chart every time they conduct research, or if they'll just start to do that naturally. So I wonder if the project will maybe turn into a paper or something they have to pull research together for. That was a lot of I wonders. Sorry.
That was great. And so can I hear from one more person? Anyone want to do some wondering or some questioning as you watch this video, what you found yourself thinking about, wondering?
I wonder what was the final product, or what data did they actually collect from these reliable sources?
Right. Yeah, we're missing a little context, aren't we? Right? So we don't really see the larger, genuine context that this might have been existing in. For your great observations on that. I have a deep personal interest in the use of video documentation as a tool for teacher education. And on my website, powerfulvoicesforkids.com, you can see examples of how I've used video documentation of classroom practice as a professional development tool. And I'll just make one little editorial comment that will help you understand my ideology and why the videos that I produce for video documentation look so very different from this one. This video document is professionally produced by filmmakers who bring in very expensive cameras and very expensive lighting and sound equipment. And having produced professional videos of classroom practice, I know how much it costs, I know how intrusive it is, I know what it's like to have a boom mic hovering over the children in order to get their sound recorded. It's a very intrusive process. And so we've been experimenting at the Media Education Lab with using very small, handheld cameras like the one in your cell phone to document in a way that isn't so intrusive into the classroom. And it's essentially like low tech. Also, we're interested in not messing with the editing too much, right? So that you literally see a practice and it's very lightly edited, or maybe it's even just one little moment of what happens in the classroom, because I think sometimes if if video documentation of classroom practice looks too good, it actually, like, I don't know, it sets unrealistic standards, or it makes teachers feel inadequate, or it just doesn't capture the genuine mess of what really happens. And we feel like it's probably good for video documentation to capture the genuine mess and make that okay. I'm fascinated with video documentation as a tool for enhancing teachers' practice. We'll be looking at more video documents as the time goes on. But now I've introduced you to this website. The Teaching Channel does have a lot of really great resources there. So feel free, if you want to poke around on that website and look at other things. You may find things that'll be really useful for the teachers in your school, or for your own developing your own pedagogical strategy. That website has just got dozens and dozens of really interesting teachers doing amazing things. I think the website's pretty inspiring because it really shows you how curriculum development and teaching is an art form. And you're going to see on that website teachers doing this kind of work at a very high level of art, and it's masterful. And I'm honored to be able to share teachers' work that way. But let's go back to our class, because we're going to try to be in a timely way, not driving you too crazy. Now, number 3, right below the picture of the middle school girl. Number 3 says, learn about digital badges by reading this brief overview from Mozilla. You definitely read that. After class, take a look at that. Then learn to use Twitter and Storify as tools for curation and credibility assessment by completing one of these 2 digital badges. I'm not even sure if you guys know what badges are. So I wonder if there's anybody who can explain, what are badges, what are digital badges? What's your understanding of badges and badging?
Would you like me to be quiet in this part? Obviously, gamification.
Ariel, go tell us about badges and badging. It's a little different from gamification, but you can explain the difference.
Sure. Well, badges is a way to publicly acknowledge something that you'd like to acknowledge that someone did in regards to a certain skill. And what Mozilla did is they created a site where you can create a badge for basically anything, and then people would share it publicly. If you think about scouts give badges, the military, we have in sports, we get all these things are rewards for achieving something. And actually the YALSA, the Young Adult Librarian Services, also are working with badges for those who they train once they use literacy within their public libraries.
Got it. So guess what? LSC531 students are going to do badging to document your achievements. And you can choose right now to click on one of those 2 badges, using Twitter as a research tool or using Storify for curation. Why don't you take a minute and click on one of those 2 badges, your choices. Storify for curation, or Twitter as a research tool. Okay. So you've come, I hope you've come to my website at achievery.com. I've created 2 badges, and this week I'd like you to complete one of these 2 badges. I give you the choice of badges because you're in different places in your own learning. So you can look at both of these badges and decide which ones you want to do. If you're new with Twitter, you might really focus on Twitter as a research tool. If you've already been using Twitter a lot, then you might move to take a look at the Storify tool. But what you're going to see, I guess yes?
When I clicked on both links, they brought me both to Storify. Neither of them actually brought me to Twitter.
That was the same for me too.
When you clicked on both links, you got to where?
The Storify. If I click on the Storify for curation, it brings me there. Or if I click on Twitter as a research tool, it also brings me to use Storify. I think the Twitter link is...
Oh gosh! Thank you for letting me know. I will try to fix that. I will try to fix that right after this class. All right. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing that. I'm going to take you to the page as I see it. Let me just see if I can screen share my way through it. So what you're looking at right now is a website called achievery.com. Logging in as the Harrington School of Communication and Media, I created 2 badges. And basically, the Storify curation tool demonstrates your ability to use curation skills by using Storify. And so what this activity invites you to do is learn about Storify, get a Storify account, watch the video to see how Storify works, and then use the annotation function of Storify to create some ideas that the LSC531 folks addressed in responding to the David Lankus article, right? And it's a pretty simple process. For this project, I really only want you to create a Storify with 5 components. And it's a very easy-to-use tool. You'll see how simple it is. You kind of drag and drop elements of social media into the Storify space, and then you make some comments. This badge requires that you mess around. You're going to mess around with Twitter or mess around, and then you're going to claim your award by showing me that you created a Storify or showing me that you've created a website, your WordPress website that shows me your Twitter as a research tool. And altogether, my estimate is it might take about 30 minutes of messing around to complete this badge. If you really are really into it, it might take you 45 minutes. But my guess is it'll take about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes to get to earn one of these. What questions do you have about this little activity?
I need a clarification on what exactly are we pulling in. Are you talking about what people have put on Twitter, what the classmates put on Twitter this week in regards to the Lankus?
Yep. That's exactly right, Ariel. I'm hoping that you essentially are curating. There are maybe as many as 70 or 80 tweets. So I'm inviting you to make some strategic selections and then justify, comment, basically annotate your selections. Thank you for asking that great clarifying question. Does anybody else have any other questions?
There will be questions, but I haven't even read anything yet, so brand new to this.
Cool. No problem.
After that, maybe there will be questions.
Good. So if you have questions, you can ask me questions on Twitter, and I'll try to answer. You can email me questions. But I do want you to understand that what you're doing with this bang around. So mess around and see if you can solve it on your own. And if you email me for questions or you Twitter me for questions, that's perfectly cool. But I think you might enjoy the opportunity to use Storify as a curation tool. If you haven't used it already, it's pretty powerful. And if Storify if it's too new for you, then play with the Twitter as a research tool badge, because that's, I think, a place of now you guys have all had some experience with Twitter, so I think you're pretty comfortable with that. All right, so if we go, we're steaming for...
Add a comment?
Please.
Okay, I just wanted to note, based on the assignment that we were just given, this is really what gamification is, because we're using game mechanics in order to achieve something in the real world. So...
Wow, so Ariel, you are like sussing out all my strategies, right? You kind of know exactly what I'm up to, right?
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. So that's me. Oh, other comments, questions?
No, I just.
So is this really a game we're playing, and can we win or lose, Renee?
Well,
we're all winners.
Yes, in a way, that's a really... No, I think Laura's asking a really good question. So all the work that you do as part of the non-synchronous part of this course counts for the 200 points of class participation credit. If you don't do any of the class participation work, there's just or B in this class. It's worth 20% of the course credit. So you have to, I am motivating you by counting this as class participation. So for sure there are some stakes to this game, right? Because you're not completely free to accept or reject it. You kind of have to do it because you're taking this course. Right. So in that sense, it's a bit of an artificial reward, but we're going to experiment with it because I'm really intrigued with the idea. I like the idea of choice. And I've been thinking a lot about how could I give you more choice as learners yourself over what you're learning in this class. So this is kind of a beginning of some experiments we're going to do around what happens when you get choices about how to engage with the learning experience. All right, so let me go back to my. I'm very sensitive. I've got about 10 minutes left, and I still haven't gotten to the. To the end yet, or to the most important stuff yet. Okay, so back to the class website. We really only have two more things to talk about. You have two non-synchronous activities, both of which involve a tool called Flipgrid. And Jenny and Ariel, I'd like you guys, while I click on these websites, I'd like you guys to talk a little bit about your experience with Flipgrid. You're going to do a Flipgrid in response to David Lankus reading, and you're going to do a Flipgrid in response to the Francie Harris reading, which I've linked right here. We're going to be reading Francie Harris's amazing article, Challenges to Teaching Credibility Assessment in Contemporary Schooling. But Ariel and Jenny, tell us a little bit about Flipgrid. What is it?
I love Flipgrid. I consider it YouTube Twitter.
Explain.
I think
Short to the point. You have very little time to record something.
I was just going to say that Flipgrid
Right.
Is a minute seconds to answer a question, and it's very, very simple to use. You just follow the directions and do what the directions say, and it takes a picture of you, and then you talk into the microphone and you answer the question, and you can record it as many times as you want. So if it takes you 20 tries before you think that what looks good, you can do that. Or you can just do the first one, and that's okay too. But it's kind of a neat tool because you get to see all of the classmates' responses, so it kind of lets you know who's in the class and what people think. So it's kind of neat that way.
Yep, that's a really great description. And one thing I'd like to invite you to do, which is in your Flipgrid, in your 90 seconds, answer the question, what is one key idea from the Frances Harris reading that you can apply to your own work as a researcher, librarian, educator, or media professional, media information professional? But then also make sure that you watch the comments of the people who came before you. So, because really what Flipgrid does is provides an opportunity for us to actually dialogue with each other in a non-synchronous way. And so if you comment on other people's ideas, it gets way, way cooler and becomes really fast. So I do invite you to experiment with Flipgrid for these two activities. Now, the final thing I want to talk a little bit about is your homework that's due next week. Next week, your first multimedia reflective essay is due. And if you click on this link, let's just see if I can take you there. Whoa. If you click on this link, you'll see that June 11th, that's next Wednesday, I'd like you to write a blog post. I'm expecting it to be a pretty substantial blog post, about 3 to 5 pages. That's about 750 to 1,500 words. What I want you to do in this essay is reflect on your own activity as a learner by describing and synthesizing what you're learning and how you're learning it. So first you have to describe the key content, information, and ideas that you've been learning so far. Then I want you to reflect on your own participation in the course and your application of these ideas from the readings and the activities to your own life. And reflect on what issues the course is raising for you. And finally, what topics are you hoping to explore in your final research and creative project? Because it's not too soon for you to be thinking about how the opportunity you have to become an expert and develop expertise in a topic related to this course that reflects your own area of professional growth. Now, you're sharing this reflective essay as a blog post posted to your WordPress account. And I am expecting you to use a combination of language, images, sound, or multimedia as part of your creative expression. If you just put up the paper as a Word document, you will not meet my expectations, right? So you have to use a combination of language, images, sound, or multimedia as part of your post. And when I grade your multimedia project, I'm going to ask these 3 questions. Have you described key content, information, and ideas that are personally and professionally meaningful to you? So have you shown me with the readings and the ideas that we're working on? And have you reflected authentically on your own learning experience, and especially the fact that it is a unique form of online learning? And then is your essay well written, and is it thoughtful and reflective, and are the grammar and spelling perfect, and have you used some form of multimedia expression? So that's the assignment that's due on June 11th. Okay, so what questions do you have about what's due for next week?
This question about thinking about final project. You said it's not too early to start thinking about it. I just want to know if you could give a little bit more direction of how to think, and can you put in some time for us to talk more about it for next week, please?
Well, I think what's going to happen is you're going to go to the website and you're going to click on the link that says Final Paper and Creative Project. Since you took the class last semester, Ariel, you kind of understand the structure, so you can click on that link and read about that. Then I think once you put some ideas forward in your blog post, then I'll be able to respond to you as you've had a chance to look at the assignment and see how I'm going to grade the final project. You've had a chance to do some preliminary writing about it, and then I will comment on your blog and in a email response to you. And of course, next week we'll have time as well. Other questions or comments about what you're doing for next week? Okay, so now I don't know if you guys are following me on Twitter, but if you are following me on Twitter, you might have noticed that I tweeted about how excited I was that not only did we get to read David Lankus last week, but we're getting to read Francie Harris next week. And I have as much admiration for Francie Harris as I do for David Lankus. And when you read her essay, you will understand why I admire her so much. But guess what? She said that she was going to join our class next week. So do not shortcut on the readings. There's only one reading for this week. It was David Lankus. There's only one reading for next week. It's Francie Harris. But you guys will have the opportunity to engage with her, I hope, if this works out. And she's amazing. Perhaps the best school librarian in America since Joyce Valenza went to become a college professor. All right? So she's pretty amazing. I am sure you'll get a lot out of reading her article. And I think it'll be fun to have her on as a guest speaker for next week. So if all goes well, we'll be chatting with her. And now it's about time for me to conclude. You've just spent about 90 minutes with me, Renee Hobbs, and my amazing LSC531 students. That's Allison, Ariel, Hyman, Jane, Jennifer, Laura, Lindsay, and Lisa, and we've been exploring information competencies of youth this semester in our summer 2014 class. Thanks for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you all back in Rhode Island next Wednesday, June 11th. Thanks for joining me tonight, you guys. Bye.
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 All right, let's do our wave. Wave.